That's leadership. Now, some of you may have seen me surfing my iPhone as I was listening to Jeff and multitasking. It's because we got so many cards here and questions on Tatweer and your comment, Prince Faisal, on Tatweer being the SABIC of education. So as I was just in China and hadn't really tooled up, SABIC, as I understand, is the Saudi Basic Industries Corporation. So I'm going to let you elaborate, but why don't you stay in your seat? We're going to do a lightning round and try to get as many questions as we can in the next few minutes. But in a minute or two, can you elaborate, Prince Faisal, on your comment that Tatweer is the SABIC of education?
Well, I think the first approach when we, with my colleagues, when we joined the ministry, is to write a letter to the custodian of the Holy Mosque and ask him that we must, Tatweer is our hope, it's the future. But in order to really go forward with a quick pace, we have to really involve Tatweer holding company. And with that, he automatically assigned the Minister of Finance, Minister of Petroleum, the Minister of Higher Education, the Ministry of Education, and Aramco, because we wanted a real effective approach. And simply, the way we see it, I think we succeeded in the 70s by establishing Jubail and Yanbu, to capitalize on our wealth. And really what counts is two things. It's our added value and sustainability. Now, the way we look at it, Tatweer...
Now you're going to do this with the dimensions of this.
What we would like to see is the investment in education. Of course, it is the future. We believe that maybe oil one day will finish. We hope not.
Is this controversial?
Not really, no. But what we want to see
You don't have some folks saying don't mess with how we used to do things?
Not really, no. I think everyone is looking forward to the impact and Tatweer's participation. It's a real hope, and we see it, and I hope we really accomplish what the mission we started.
Anthony, in the U.S. system, we have a world-class higher education college system. Students from around the world, many of the students here today come to that system. I would suppose that if you were to basically if we were to play a game and the game said you've got a limited amount of chits to put out in the U.S. educational system so that you can change the profile over time, you gave a description of wanting to do everything on all ends. But what do you think most needs to be fixed? What do you think most needs to be raised in terms of a national conversation and a national priority? If there were one or two priorities within that huge pantheon you outlined?
Sure, I'd say when you have to have the K-12 system that has a set of standards that is preparing kids for the access to higher education system. So right now, you've got, it can be up to 50 and even 60% of high school graduates when they go into college need some kind of remediation. It's costing our higher education system billions of dollars to address the shortfalls of our K-12 system. And so we've got to ensure that students coming out of K-12, right, are truly prepared to be for the 21st century. So that would be kind of one clear one. I think similarly, we have to ensure coming into the K-12 system, right, coming into the K-12 systems, our youth are kind of kindergarten ready. I think those would be two things in terms of
standing. And is that a function of budgets? Is that a function of money deployed? Or is that a function of other things?
It's much more a function of will. Of policymakers and of society. And I think we're talking about change. The reality is, in many states, the standards are too low. And so you're talking about the differential. Use Tennessee as an example. When they actually migrated to higher standards, you went from a situation where 90% are being deemed proficient to, in some cases, less than 60%. That is a very difficult political position to take, but that is what's going to be required. The reality is our current education system is not adequately preparing our high school graduates, and we have to acknowledge that and raise the standards. And it's much more about the political will than it is about financial resource.
Ambassador Smith, when you were talking about your mother and what she did, I found it very moving, and that she went out and she was a real change. When I think back, just even in my own life, to that era, teachers were held on high. They were noble people in among those who worked. And so what's also happened since you were in high school is an incredible erosion in the status of teachers in the United States. We had Rick Thames, who's the editor-in-chief of the Charlotte Observer, sent me a note saying, if you want to transform education in the United States, we have to somehow figure out how to do better than drawing the bottom third of graduates to basically teach our students in future. And that may be an inaccurate assessment, but it's his, and it was on the record, so that's his burden to bear. But I'm interested in that because you really gave us a very, almost a Norman Rockwell-ish plus leadership view. What do you think it's going to take to get back there? You're an expert on leadership as well as Jeff, so.
Well, Prince Faisal's already started. And let's give credit where credit's due. When you go from 8 to 32 universities, when you open a new school every day, when your population doubles 3 different times over the last 30 years, there's an incredible requirement for teachers. But again, if you look at the 47,000 students here in the States, a lot of them have already been identified to go back into the Saudi system to teach. And a lot of this is the same challenge that we have in attracting young talent and making teaching a noble profession. It's a challenge for both of us.
Prince Faisal, how do teachers rank in Saudi Arabia?
In what sense?
How do they, are they, when I went to high school in Japan, being a teacher was a pretty powerful profession. And you paid, there was enormous respect paid to teachers. Teachers could make or break you when you were 13. To some degree, is the profession of teaching one that is held up? Is it something that you have invested into sort of as Ambassador Smith's mother went out? Do you have teachers there that are really part of the best part of society, or is this looked at as an alternative option if you couldn't make it in the oil business?
Well, it's, you know, as I said, you know, our wealth is in our human capital, I think. But teachers, really, we're having a problem. I think the value of a teacher, I mean, in our system or in our belief that there is always a poem that was said that a teacher could have been a prophet. And this is the most important role, I think, you know, to shape up. It's easy. I think the book or the curriculum is not, but it's how you introduce it. It's how you influence those, how you treat those kids. Unfortunately, we had a very, we had a choice either to spread education and really have all those graduates coming different, standard, and really it's a very low standard, or to concentrate on quality. I think this is our job now. We're doing a lot of teacher training, choosing the right teacher, and we have, that's why we want this regulator or regulatory board is to evaluate teachers, give teacher license, and also give incentives. And in the ministry, we are working on what we call ranks of teacher. We hope in 5 to 10 years, the quality will go up again.
Let me ask you a little bit of a tough question. We heard both Prince Faisal and Ambassador Smith refer to the number of students, and maybe you did as well, the number of students from Saudi Arabia studying in the United States, and also the huge proportion of women studying in Saudi Arabia. 30% of those students that are studying in the United States are women. And as Princess Lulwa said when we were on the panel 2 years ago in Chicago, education creates appetites, and it creates options. People see things they might not otherwise, and when they go back with something quite different, which I assume is part of what you hope happens. But to some degree, as I was talking to one of my Saudi friends in the audience, it is revolutionary, perhaps not, it is revolutionary to have 60% of your women in educational institutions inside Saudi Arabia, perhaps even more edgy to have so many women allowed to go and study abroad and then come back. So the question is, when those women come back, is the track the Lubna Olayan track? Have you set expectations in motion inside Saudi Arabia? And is that the king's purpose, to basically transform society by creating a bigger international appetite abroad and bringing that in?
Well, going into the knowledge society, and aiming to be globally competitive. We need all the resources in the country, either male or female. And King Abdullah is opening the space and introducing new opportunities for female employees and either scientists or teachers or businesswomen. So I think, as Prince Faisal mentioned in his statement, the new Shura Council will have women members, the new election will have also women members. And we believe that one of the main strength, one of the main strength of our country is to rely heavily on the woman. The caliber of women in Saudi Arabia is different, as we believe, compared to other countries. We didn't have the issue of convincing women to pursue technical disciplines or career. We have the issue of the capacity. We have more women they are willing to pursue a technical or computer science or medicine career than male students. So I think we have hope to rely more on women. The space is expanding, the opportunities are increasing, and the next 10, 15 years will witness a huge contribution to Saudi female to the society.
Question from the audience, when will we have, oh yes, yes.
I think what King Abdullah did in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, is he gave women her destiny in her hands. So it's her choice, and we hope they will make the right choice.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay. Just two more questions. When will we have international schools operate in Saudi Arabia with world-class and multinational students like those in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates? It sounds like a bold question. Maybe on the way, but what
was the question?
The question is, when are you going to have cool schools with multinational students like the UAE and Qatar? It sounded... Yeah.
Well, we have more than 200 schools currently in Saudi Arabia.
This was not my question. I just
we have number of American.
I know.
We have number of American schools, number of UK schools, and Canadian and other countries. And currently, we are also updating the act for allowing more foreign investors from the west or from the east to have their own fully owned schools.
Yeah, I should also add that I visited a university in Saudi Arabia not too long ago that drew its president from Singapore, that drew in faculty from all over the world, and that the students, both Saudi and international, are pretty diverse. So I think this may be moot, but I needed to ask it. And Jeff, I'm going to end with you. So. Not again. You know, I know the GE way is to be top first and second, and we're going to make you the top last person.
The most remembered is what we want to
right.
do.
But in terms of leadership, and you think about corporations and the way you operate around the world, I'd be interested in, again, the zingers. What would be the 2 or 3 most important things you think, both for America, as, I think one of the challenges that the United States faced for a long time is it was an anchor in the world, and it could sort of get away with its own norms and practices. The world's become a lot more international, and I think it's created new challenges for Americans to realize to compete abroad, they've got to understand the abroad. And I think for Saudi leadership, which is increasingly multinational and also diversifying their economy in important ways, what are the 2 or 3 most important lessons in leadership development that you think are vital?
I think there's several, but I'll go with 3. I think people need to be globally connected. I think the world is globally connected today. We no longer operate in a vacuum, and no one's going to win the game if you try to be so nationalistic that you look at the world only from your national borders. You've got to be locally connected, but you also have to have a global perspective and mindset. The second one that I think is just the skill that we've got to find a way to teach in our schools are those critical thinking skills. People have got to be able to look around the corners. They've got to be able to tie dots together. None of us know what the world's going to be like in 2016. We can make a guess what the world's going to be like, but we don't know what it's going to be like. And so we have to be able to teach people those critical thinking skills. And I think, as we talk about women in education, we talk about men in education, I think we've got to have people that are confident in their own abilities, and they know their strengths and they know the developmental needs. And we've got to figure out a system that allows people to have an honest self-assessment so I can go out and get the skills I need to have to compete globally.
Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what Ambassador Smith said about Saudi time, we started 25 minutes late. We've ended exactly on time. Please give a round of applause to Jeff Barnes, Ambassador James Smith, Khalid Al-Sabti, Deputy Secretary Anthony Miller, and His Highness Prince Faisal bin Abdullah Al Saud. Thank you so much.